I was kind of asked here today to talk a little bit about A, smart villages, but B, also some of the systems and tools we have to support communities in the community planning process and so forth. So I'm just going to put on a timer here just to make sure I don't go over time. But some people are probably aware, but there's a drive at European level for a concept called smart villages. It's been pushed predominantly through the LEADER program, the NRD and the LEADER program. And this is something that's been pushed across the entire of Europe. But each country is interpreting the smart village concept in its own way. It's a relatively new term. The concept of smart cities has been going for many years, but it's a big push in that regard. A good number of the local development companies in Ireland decided to come together and commission the creation of a smart village curriculum for Ireland, and we were hired to prepare that curriculum. So the curriculum is interpreted by different regions in different ways, but in the original curriculum is a 6-module course, 90 minutes for each module, and it goes through particularly the community planning and management piece. We, as subsequently, are working with 8 different local development companies in delivering that training and that support in communities, about 50 communities, I think, at the moment. And we, in parallel, have a digital tool to help that process. So try to give you an idea on things. What I might just say is that if a traditional approach to community planning is once every 5 to 10 years, sometimes a consultant is hired and a kind of a PDF, a one-off document is prepared and delivered to the community. The smart village approach would be an iterative approach where you log your community assets, goals, stakeholders, projects, and metrics, and you can continually edit each one of those and push it through the system. What we also do with those assets, stakeholders, and projects, we tag them with the relevant theme. And there's a couple of different theme approaches, but the one we've been using is the one we developed with Dr. Maura Farrell up in NUIG, which has this top layer. I won't go through them. Has a second layer, which you can see here, and a third layer which goes in that is a bit deeper. By doing that, we're able to build plans quite quickly by identifying looking at biodiversity. We can extract all the assets, stakeholders, projects, and metrics related to biodiversity, which generates our plan. And say our plan is something that you could is constantly edited, constantly adapted, allowing new ideas to come in, but also a democratization almost of project ideas. So we can have them there listed and get people, depending on their interests, can tag where they're interested in, and we start building teams around things. Management piece is the coordination team on top, and every 12 months they run an AGM, but below that then you have action teams based on the team structure I showed you. I appreciate it's a lot to take in there, but most local development companies around Ireland are pushing some projects related to that. The benefits include that are modular and easy to read. Plans are really easy to update. It builds upon the existing work, so it's new ideas are fantastic, but what are the schools doing? What are the local tidy towns doing? Appreciate acknowledging those and see how they can be supported, and of course new ideas as well. And we're hopefully encouraging greater participation. So we're not just focusing on there's one key goal for the community, which we hope as many people join to. We appreciate that communities are very complex and different people have different interests, and we allow people to move around those ideas quite quickly. But also to note here, it's not really about the technology. The technology often is the enabler. The solution is often people. As I like to say in a lot of our presentations, aim here is to bring together people with similar interest and complementary skills. So the example I often give is a solicitor, a farmer, and a graphic designer. They're passionate about cycling. If we bring them into a room and talk about more general community development, it might go away. But if we talk about cycling to them, we have a better chance of keeping them on board. I appreciate that I'm going slow on, or going. I only have a couple of seconds left. What I just want to show you then is to work in parallel with that smart village approach. We have a dashboard which we were working on with our 50 community clients. In there, they can do a variety of different things. I won't go through everything, but just to show you that they each have a dashboard where they're logging their assets, goals, and stakeholders, and they can edit and update them as they see fit. What they can also do then is we have a database. There's about 1,000 project ideas in there at the moment, but they can filter them by the relevant theme. And then if they like a particular project idea, they can click a button and push it over to their plan. They can curate the records, as I mentioned, and then they can go to a section where they can download at any moment in time a plan related to something kind of higher level, or they want to go into something a lot more nuanced, say down the lower level themes. When they click the download button, it will create them a plan like this. And in there, they will see their asset stakeholder and so forth. So you can see a very modular approach to the community plan and continually being updated. Each plan or each record in our system has an open button, so they can open up and as a public link, so people in the community then can say, yeah, I want to get involved in this. So we're at this all the time to build action teams of people who are interested in similar things. And just to mention also that we then also provide a kind of a community dashboard. There's a public page where they can go in and see what asset stakeholders projects are of interest to them, click to open up and then get involved. We do a lot of preparation work then with communities also. So we're taking open data stuff. So we're taking databases of lakes, rivers, businesses and so forth and populating plans for communities. So we think we can, there's an awful lot of really good data out there and we can populate that into communities early on. I appreciate it gone over time, so I'll stop it there. Just from our experience, it's just the management piece. There's an awful lot of funding streams out there. Unfortunately, application forms are often completely different. You're rewriting the same thing in a different way, which is reality of life. But the communities we work with who are best at that, we often find they form a funding team, not just by the way leaving to someone to do. It's a funding team. They try and get help for that person or two or three to do that job. But just because they submit the funding application doesn't mean they have to implement it. So there could be implementations team to take over, but there's a skill in itself in preparing a funding application. And there's collateral you can get. There's pictures, there's about our town, there's a list of historical projects. That kind of collateral needs to be gathered, and there's a team doing that. They can help different action teams apply for the thing, obviously in partnership with those. So it's kind of a pragmatic approach to that. How a community funds manages its funding opportunities is a key part. What we're also finding as well is that sometimes communities can be so focused on trying to get more funding that they forget there's so many projects that you can do without funding. There's lots of really good things you can do with little or no funding, or supporting existing projects that are already happening within tiny towns or in the schools. So there's an important part of that mix to, of course, find that new funding, but appreciate what can be done for cheap or free within the capacity and skills of the community. Looking at specifically the approach we're working with communities, it's slightly different, and not every communities, but we've found in some communities we're realizing that there's community champions, which gets lots of work done, but in some respects they can be gatekeepers. So historically they kind of go, a project idea comes up and they're kind of saying, no, I don't have capacity for that, I can't do it. So then it doesn't filter out and is not shared among the entire community to see what other people are willing to champion it and so forth. So with the kind of smart village approach, IDs are simple, they can be added there, and there could be 2 and 3 and 4 people who mightn't be involved in projects so far because nothing suited them there, to try and get them in and around it. So as a communities are the ultimate in complex things. There's old people, young people, people with interest in cycling, biodiversity, the energy transition. is concerned with tourism. It's concerned with tech. It's concerned with biodiversity. So we need to be able to get people working on projects that interest them. If we try and force them through projects that they're not interested in, it just doesn't happen, kind of is. So a lot of the stuff around that. Also, it's difficult at the moment, but metrics are a key piece in the whole thing. We're trying to get more and more metrics. We add those metrics in there. While Ruth is here, I might just mention it would be great if we could get energy, even electricity uses at a community level, and form a Tidy Towns of community energy use. Tidy Towns has been a wonderful example of showing that if you just put metrics in and allow that competition piece to happen, communities can do great things. We're kind of trying to champion that piece a while there now, but yeah, looking at metrics to help them prioritize things. We're finding in some communities, as I mentioned before, they create these funding teams. They're also creating engineering teams, biodiversity teams that do have people to call on within the community. But absolutely, there's a need for that middle piece is a little bit more difficult, which we're finding that communities are struggling with. So I don't have a simple answer. We're not a funder, I would say. So that's my piece.